Today, my objective above anything else is to share a perspective. As we reimagine the future of our own different ways, my personal motivation to do so was simply to learn more and to explore both what lies out there and what I can find within myself. To satiate that urge, I resorted to adventure, and I found that it answered in unexpected, mysterious, yet beautiful ways. Over the past 20 years, I learned that a life of adventure, like a few other noble pursuits, demands a long and devoted apprenticeship, physical as well as philosophical. I also learned that adventure makes you a better person and who can actually contribute to better understanding of our everyday lives. Now the question is that really what adventure is about? You might think. Given the relentless onslaught of stereotypes from various mass media, we might have fostered our own image of an adventure with inevitable biases. Now this is a photo from a modern day advertisement that is inviting their clients on a journey to the North Pole. Yes, the geographical North Pole. And the text accompanying the photo reads something like this. What is an intrepid adventure traveler to do when they have already visited all the 7 continents, climbed Kilimanjaro, hiked the Inca Trail, sailed the Galapagos Islands? Why? Visit the North Pole, of course. Not many people realize that it is actually possible to make the journey to the very top of the world. But for those who are very adventurous and have plenty of cash. Apparently, adventure seems to be a statement full of superlatives and benchmarks. The cliches abound, all of them look great, pasted on a sunrise stock photo with jazzy font and uploaded to Instagram. Underlying all of them is the same message. The only thing holding you back is yourself. If only you had more confidence and courage, you could be living the same life of grand adventure. For some, it is an inspiring call to action. For others, it is a demoralizing statement, a judgment. Your failure to live this exciting life is entirely your fault. How then does this sudden beckoning of stagnation envision what you should be doing? What should your adventure look like? How can it be anything better than a boisterous claim of glory? How can you render it meaningful? In order to perform, a meaningful adventure, one need not spend a fortune. This is what I have learned. Nor travel to the farthest corners of the globe. All we need is a little imagination. In the following slides, I will share glimpses of some of my adventures that I imagined, and in the end, those imaginations gave birth to meaningful and original adventures. One of them began with a Bengali classic. As much as it appealed to my wonder as a child, a thoughtful inspection much later unearthed actual history, characters, and context that opens up fresh perspectives for the perceptive reader to relish, as any well-written book should. Now, in this book, the protagonist Shankar's dreams revolving around an account of an expedition that took place to the mountains of the moon led to his own adventure of self-discovery, and later on he found his own meaning of the word mountains of the moon. Now, as mentioned, the account narrated the exploits of a certain Duke of Abruzzi, who I checked had been on a pioneering expedition of the Ruwenzori Mountains on the border of Uganda and Congo. Around the same timeline as Vibhuti Bhushan indicated. The Ruwenzori and its legends date back to Ptolemy, however, and the name Mountains of the Moon was suggested by Ptolemy himself. Now the story unravels in exciting ways as Shankar, the protagonist, finds himself in adventures that take him to the south of Africa to Richter's Belt. Meanwhile, I was cast away on an equally exciting journey of how these clues and references added up almost coincidentally for the names and events and places were all falling into almost parallel, unforeseen adventure. I found this idea captivating enough to set out to climb in the Ruwenzori themselves, with the overarching goal being completing Shankar's quest to find the mountains of the moon. The journey being but merely that means to an end, so enthralling, is what I find the motive for such an adventure, and not merely the byproduct, wherein I became the first from India to scale a mountain in that range. The latter is just another representative of what one is exposed to being hailed as adventure, but in essence isn't worth even considering in akin to one. Thus, in spirit, adventure serves to satiate curiosity, to cherish the pursuit of uncharted, the untrodden, until what seemed a mystery is all understood. The closest I came to interpret this intrigue for the uncharted was in the writings of Eric Shipton, who coined the term blank on the map. Shipton was one of the fabled Shipton-Tillman duo that shaped the exploratory history of the Himalaya in the 1930s. Now, having developed an appetite for these blanks across the course of my career in the Himalaya myself, I could not help but be sanguine about these blanks lingering elsewhere. In particular, I was curious about the eastern thresholds of the Himalayas, where the three great rivers, the Chinsa, the Salween, and the Irrawaddy, run almost alongside each other for a quite long while, and until the Chinsa takes two drastic meanders on its own course. I recall being privy to a friend's remark that the latter bend of the river's track encloses a certain snow-capped mountain range, one that possibly had remained untrodden or even undocumented to this date. Now, this blank on the map suddenly became more conspicuous. What imagination serves for an adventure to ensure its feasibility stands much more profound than perhaps what a strong corporate backup or administrative relaxation can accomplish. It was in fact possible for me to successfully explore and document an entirely unknown mountain range alone with a budget that seems only too meager for such a venture. Now, contrary to commonplace but firm notion, the suffocating administrative vigilance of the Chinese state was hardly an impediment to a solitary traveler probing into uncharted places, asking questions, delving almost heinously deeper than what conventional tourists can reach. It should hardly be a surprise if this adventure, fueled by passionate imagination and little else, had more revelations than just what intrigues geologists or climbers. The world confides its secrets more in a traveler, it seems. For in the shadow of these alien mountains is nestled a village, a populace of disappearing race. The so-called black Lolos are a dying people, victims of an all-devouring cultural conflict imposed by the often state-sponsored ethnic Han dominance. With civilization still remaining an obscurity to these people, plightful aspects that are shared by all minorities across the globe surface before me. Inquiry along the horizons of my previous curiosities drew out more rediscovery than I could foresee. Such are the rewards of a true adventure. Now, imagination inspires adventure, unraveling discoveries that serve not so much to confound as to instruct. Almost in consequence, as one seeks to explore the world, he explores himself in a new light. The fascination, my fascination for Africa was awakened not merely from my experience in the Ruwenzori in 2015, but rather much before that. In 2012, when a swelling cascade of inspiration as well as a surging enthusiasm to expand my avenues of adventure persuaded me to visit the continent, I suddenly found more room to explore. As I rode my bicycles across 4,500 kilometers through 5 countries at the heart of Africa, I found myself plunging into a breathtaking collage of culture, landscape, stories. The pulsating cradle of our species inevitably sought my attention years after, extending prospects of new journeys. And as the continent's extensive image lay strewn across my mind, for all I had seen across its heart, the vast Sahara reminded me of the immenseness that I had missed. Determined to see how I fared against the lifeless expanses of nothingness, to experience solitude at its ghastliness, I set myself a route. Inspiration molds reality, and true to my inspiration, I rode across the Sahara from Morocco to Senegal, through the Western Sahara and Mauritania. Now this obscure sand-beaten highway spans the breadth of the Sahara across 4 nations and seemed to be the least terrorist-prone in recent history. Habitation, though dispersed and scant, was ideally spread for a lone traveler to sustain himself. Neither piercing sand nor battering gusts of wind are insurmountable, nor is nothingness nearly as unbearable as it seems. But the only unbearable affliction was the one that humans subjected me to. In a certain section of Mauritania, the ethnic majority of inhabitants are a people called the White Moors. It is owing to their relatively pallid complexion against the denizens of the Sahara. Even as quaint as it seems today, open, rampant racism exists among them for clear reasons. Astonishingly though, an adventure taught me what it feels like to be a victim of such discrimination, to be hated personally without any particular reason, to be shunned, looked at with contempt and disgust, even have rocks flung at me. Now, as I crossed the borders into the sub-Saharan familiar ground, the old friendliness seemed as welcoming as the reward of seeing new perspectives had been enriching. Adventure taught me about being human more than what books could convey. Adventure has reinforced my way of forming ideas about this wide world that we all share. The imaginations of adventurers, once executed, had a certain efficacy in causing realization that little else in life can offer. The undaunted refusal to remain stagnant isn't merely a prerequisite to knowledge, but also a channel of obtaining it. The way an eager mind assimilates wisdom is augmented when the beholder seeks to explore. For in his heart, he has seen diversity. He has found bliss in uncertainty and learned to appreciate the wide, unearthly contrasts of life across a spectrum of lands and cultures. He is sensitive and academic, and his opinions bear the force of a conglomeration of a myriad of experiences. His perspective amidst the wealth of our race's cumulative knowledge is what shall shape our collective future. I thank you very much.